Hi, this is Wendy Kendrick with my mini unit presentation on finding area in rectangles, measurement and data for grades 3. I'm going to be looking at 3 Common Core state standards within this mini unit. The first standard is in geometry for grade 3, understanding that shapes in different categories may share attributes and that shared attributes can define a larger category. Because I'm going to be teaching on area of rectangle, I found that it was important to make sure that the students know the difference between various geometric shapes. So I wanted to start there as background. Then in lessons 2 and 3, I will be looking at finding the area of a rectangle and doing so by tiling it and showing square units, and then applying that to real life, which would be the next Common Core state standard, where they move beyond tiling and find the area of a rectangle with a whole number of side lengths and put that into practice in a real world scenario. The mini unit objectives will be lesson 1, students being able to categorize shapes. Lesson 2, students demonstrating their understanding of finding the area of a rectangle by making units, squares inside of them to form a grid. And then moving into lesson 3, where they will be able to demonstrate their understanding of finding the area of a rectangle through multiplication of those side lengths. And then lesson 4 is going to take a few days, but it's an end unit project where they're going to apply area to a real world designing of a house and formulating the area of their various rooms within their house. So like I said, lesson 1 will be a review. We will introduce quadrilaterals, or reintroduce them, I should say, and really focusing on parallelograms and rectangles, squares, and rhombus, and the difference between those. It's my intention that the mini unit following this mini unit will be looking at area of triangles and area of trapezoids. So we will keep those separate. They'll have worksheets to do and games to do together in order to accomplish this. In lesson 2, we'll be looking at rectangles, grids, and square units. And this is the point where I'll read quadrilateral if you were a quadrilateral and if you were a polygon, while the students cut out square units that we will then use in our lesson. They'll be able to fill in different shaped rectangles with those square units, counting the sides, counting the interior completely, helping it to make sense. And after we do the I do, and then we do the we do, then the students will work in pairs for the you do. And then in lesson 3, students are going to build on what they learned the day before by looking at those square units. So we'll start by having a rectangle with only square units on one side and then the other side, which is shown here in the I do section. And they're going to connect those components by understanding you multiply those two sides together, and that is the same answer as if you were to add all of the individual square units up. Then we'll do the we do, which is underneath there, and doing that together, inviting students up to demonstrate and model how they arrived at different answers. And then the you do will be, again, partners and doing the game Raging Rectangles, where they will roll dice to create rectangles with that number of dice. And finally, the end unit, the end of the unit, the dream house. And this is going to have the STEAM and the writing component. This is a very large project. which is why it will take several days, but it is going to be a really fun way to end the unit. And they'll get to do some dreaming and some mapping on their dream house, which is what they're going to be creating. They get to write a creative piece about it, why their dream house should be sold for $1 million. They will get to do a practice grid page designing their dream house and the different rooms. But whatever they do, they're going to have to find the area. And I also asked for the perimeter in this because it's my assumption that we will have already covered perimeter prior to this. So I want to activate prior knowledge and see what they remember about perimeter as well. So my design process for this was to work backwards. So the backwards mapping. Because I knew that the objective for the students was that I wanted them to be able to find the area of a rectangle by multiplying its sides by each other, and then put that into context of solving real world problems, I worked backwards. So that's why I started with the shapes and having them understand the different kinds of shapes, and then moving into tiling with square units to find the area by adding all of those squares up within a rectangle, and then being able to multiply the lengths of each side and recognize that it's the same as adding the square units all up together. And then applying that to a real life scenario, which was creating their own dream house. So the challenge I found in this was that it was hard to find clear ways to assess students individually. That would be my concern in teaching this unit, that I wouldn't move too quickly and leave some students behind. So I realized I'd really have to be purposeful in making sure that they're keeping up. And the success I saw was in mapping this out in the backwards mapping. That made it a lot easier to know where to start if I knew what my end goal was. And I really liked that process a lot. Thanks.